Hey, thanks for joining my session on how to become an AI-driven testing leader and help others out of the cave. So let me start with a 2,400-year-old story that I think is oddly relevant in software testing today. And that's a metaphor from philosophy, Plato's cave, that you can find in his book, The Republic. So if you don't know, in Plato's allegory of the cave, a group of people are chained inside a cave. They spent their whole lives staring at shadows on a wall cast by objects behind them. To them, these shadows are reality, because that's all they've ever seen. But one person breaks free. At first, the light outside the cave is overwhelming. But as the eyes adjust, they begin to see the real world and realize everything they believed before was just the shadow of what's possible. And that's where I believe many testers are today. I truly think we're in a midst of a paradigm shift, and many of us are still staring at the familiar shadows on the wall of test cases, automated scripts, and coding frameworks, thinking that's all there is. But AI is a light outside the cave that I think a lot of people need to start seeing and embracing. And at the end of this presentation, I hope you realize that AI is not about replacing us. It's about revealing a much broader, more strategic role we can play as testing leaders, and hopefully you'll take away some actionable insights you can put into place right now. For those that don't know, I'm Joe Colantonio, founder of the Test Guild, and I run a ton of webinars and podcasts, so I get to talk to some of the top experts in testing and AI. So I'll be sharing many of those experts' insights along the way. So it's kind of like a fireside chat as well, but not really. So let's start with Jason Arbin. He's a well-known AI test automation expert, a former Googler, and he also wrote a book on how Google tests software back in the day. And this is what he told me about what shadows he sees holding testers today back.
I believe now, after interacting with a lot of humanity the last few months, is that testers don't actually care about quality. Very rare. Very rare is when the tester care about quality. What they care about is the mechanics of testing. So they love to know they're adding value and getting paid for putting their headphones on and executing the same suite manually over and over and over again. Maybe a little exploratory testing on Friday afternoon. But they like that activity. They also, if you're a developer, like if you're an automation developer, they love to create page object models. That's what they're there for. They want to code. But they like the craft. They like doing the work in the execution of it. They not only don't care about quality, they also don't care about efficiency, because the inefficiency in the process is their fun, and that's what they're there for. So I think the vast majority of testers don't actually care about quality, and they actually don't care about efficiency. And they absolutely don't want to use these tools, to be very clear. I think they don't want to use these types of tools because it threatens their job. And they like things to be predictable, and it ruins their fun.
Ouch. That is some hard truths. I hope it caught your attention, though, because I know I've seen many testers that only care about the technical aspects of a testing tool or the actual coding or creating frameworks just for the sake of creating frameworks or learning the latest and greatest automation tool with zero interest in the actual quality of what they're testing. And as Jason said, if you are a tester that only cares about the mechanics of testing, you might want to change your mindset or resistance to AI, because AI is becoming more and more the norm. So if you're a skeptic or don't even know where to start, here's what other experts are telling me are working for them right now in implementing AI.
I think couple of, not one, but I'm going to give you two. One is test case generation. Like, you can obviously use Copilot, and there are a lot of open source AI tools out there that you can download from GitHub and make use of it as long as your company governance allows it. But like, generative AI has made it really easy to prompt it with some sort of requirement, and it can at least get you started with base test cases, right? Even you can prompt it for negative test, and sometimes it doesn't give you the proper negative test, but at least like you have the base to start with, and then you put your experience on top of it and make it faster and better, right? So I see a lot of practical usage of that. And the second one is the writing code. So again, you can start with a base unit test. You can start with a base integration test. Copilots makes it very easy. We use Copilot in my day-to-day life, but it makes it very easy to start on a right foot, and then again you bring in your expertise and you build upon it, which was not available a few years ago, right? So speed and the base, that's what it is giving.
From my perspective, I think we had a lot of ideas on how we can use AI, but I think to use it effectively, we need to consider something more like an assistant or a way to grow or to speed up the velocity on different repetitive tasks or analytical tasks that we need. So I would say we need some help on faster analysis, for example, some help on getting some specific information on the things that probably we need. And I think AI can help us a lot on making better decisions, having like more context and understanding or looking at some things that maybe sometimes we can ignore or maybe we didn't consider. So definitely, I would say use AI effectively is going to help us to grow our own potential, I would say, or help us on having on optimizing all the skills that we already have on QA.
As a automation engineer and as a architect of frameworks, I know that I'm using it to consider how I want to build a sustainable framework. Bringing that into my Java work has been very, very helpful. I like to build in a lot of extensibility in my frameworks. So that is an important part of the design from the ground up. That's been invaluable to me. Initially using Copilot, and I am now using Gemini 2.5 and finding it very useful in, probably 2 to 4 hours ahead of time in research and considering things before I put, fingers to keyboard and write code.
So as somebody that have been talking about AI since 2016 and even been in the AI space for the last 17 years, I'm excited to see, not only the rise of vibe coding, but also for my tester friend, how they're leveraging AI to, first of all, understand requirement, but also leveraging AI to write the test case, execute the test, and also use AI to execute automated tests, use AI to help them write their automated tests. I think for me, the best use of people that are using AI is they're using it piece by piece. They're really focusing on where they need help and leveraging AI to help them in those areas. So you got to use AI piece by piece so you can really infuse yourself. Like I love to say, be the human in the loop as part of the testing cycle and leverage AI in each part of the activity.
So when can AI in one form or another be okay? Well, first of all, if you use the output for inquiry rather than control, we said the same thing about metrics for years and years. If you're using it to help you frame better questions, to give you something where, let's think about this in a slightly different way, then it's pretty safe. It's okay for that. When the output is used for discovery and analysis rather than for pushing aside responsibility. If it's used for the purpose of delegating a decision to machinery, not playing.
All right, thank you, experts. As you heard, there's a lot of things you could do right now to implement AI in testing. But the last point Michael Bolton made, I think, is a great reminder that any AI-driven testing leader needs to remember. And that is, do not outsource your thinking to AI. AI can point you in the right direction by crunching the data and helping you prioritize, but it will not make choices for you. Only you can choose. Do not outsource your thinking. You are the testing expert. And keep in mind that AI does not think. It's just a pattern matching guesser. It appears intelligent, but it's not. AI is a tool, so it provides predictive insights, not intelligence. So what skills or habits do testers need to develop to stay relevant in an AI-driven future, especially as more and more companies have mandates for companies that shall incorporate AI? Well, let's ask the experts.
I think the skill that got you here is not going to be the skill that will take you there. But the foundation of the skill that got you here will remain. stay curious. This is something, I think the last time I was on your podcast, I mentioned that as one of the reasons why I love tester is people that stay curious. So staying curious, because there's going to be a ton of tools that will be coming at us, in the next 5 and 10 years, there's going to be a ton of tools. And we should no longer be, I think we are all clear now that testers are not going to lose their job in this AI revolution, right? We are still going to be here because there's going to be so many applications that's going to be creating and leveraging AI. And who are the best people that need to test it? Tester. So we need to stay curious. We need to continue to understand the requirement, because what I'm saying with vibe testing, or I say vibe testing, vibe coding, is developers are no longer paying attention to what the requirements say. And it's only going to take tester to continue paying attention to what the requirement is. Because you can build a beautiful UI, a beautiful application, but if it's not solving what the client or the user or the customer want, you miss the boat. So who are the people that we have with that? It's once again, tester. So I think tester need to keep the main core skill of curiosity, making sure they are here to advocate for customer and use AI to help them achieve that goal even faster and more efficient. I'm hoping now with AI in place and tester being also at the forefront of the usage of AI, we're no longer gonna talk about efficiency, because we all are marching in the same and beating to the same drum of using AI in a very efficient way.
I don't think they have to get as many skills as they want. I think they just have to, it's a psychological thing. If you look at some of the tools that are out there, they're removing the barriers. I don't have to know Python or Perl or Java or these other things. I just have to know how to be a tester. I mean, if there's a whiz-bangy term that I would choose, I would say the notion of prompt engineering is really there. But I think for someone in software quality, it's just natural. A lot of people in software quality are used to reading really well-defined requirements and understanding the difference between a good requirement and kind of a meh requirement, one that leaves lots of gaps and holes. I think the same skill set's there for prompt engineering, the ability to interact with these language models to get out what it is that we want. Again, it's a lot of what should we be doing, not what can we do. You look at any of these tools and you're going to want to play with them. And you might say to yourself, oh, great, there's this new tool. I'm at the console, I'm at the interface, I'm at the whatever whiz-bangy thing, and I'm just using it, and I'm so excited. All right, what are you doing? So in the same sense of preparing yourself for it, as we're looking at these tools, we should be preparing really well-defined POCs. What is it that we want to do? What is it we want to intend to do? Not just whatever the vendor shows us, this amazing thing that it can do. Make sure that thing that it can do is what you need it to do, and go in it with intent. Intentionality should be absolutely epic and key to everything that we're doing with the advent of AI.
And what's a common misconception or mistake teams make when trying to adopt AI in testing?
Probably that they think that they have to have it everywhere. If it doesn't have AI, then they're doing it wrong. I think we need to remind ourselves that, at least at this moment, because I don't see Skynet floating around and John Connor's not running down the streets trying to chase it. The thing up here is still, this God-gifted brain that we have is still the smartest thing we got. So we need to use that intellect and know where to use it. I think a lot of at least the next several years of adoption of AI is going to be understanding where it's appropriate to use it and how it's appropriate to use it. So arming ourselves with the know-how of what does it mean? How do I use it? What can it do for me? That's what's really going to be helpful for us.
I think we're about to see some of the biggest defects we've probably ever encountered as test engineers. And the reason I believe that is more developers are being encouraged to just allow AI to write their code for them. And I think that's going to enable more unvetted code to get into a production code base. So I think the thing that I would encourage test engineers to do is to keep up on what is being taught to developers, how to utilize these tools, and where do they identify the biggest risk. Our work in QA is all about risk assessment, and we have a new type of risk that's available, which is maybe a comfort that the code that is getting written is of the quality that maybe a seasoned architect or developer would write. And my experience has not been that yet.
I think just learn it, right? And it applies to anything new comes on it. AI is a thing and it's gonna be there with us, right? So as long as you embrace it and don't be afraid of it and use it for your benefit. So 10 years ago, somebody told me QA will be this like vanishing. Why don't I not move to development, right? And I like my passion for quality still keeps me here, and I grew to the topmost position, right? So I'll tell the same thing. Like there is so many positive side of the AI right now happening, being it MCP, being it AI agent, being it newer tools, ChatGPT, Copilot. Like why don't we just make ourselves a list of things that we can learn to be relevant and top of our industry, right? And if the testers are able to do it without fear, I think they also will be very relevant throughout, because we do need experience people to see whatever AI is producing is worth it or not, right? Like I can't still see a world where like we take the human out of the loop and AI is doing it end to end. We might be going there in next couple of years, but we are not there yet, right?
So I would say, and I think I always mention this, we are testers, and our main skill is to question, right? To see out of the box. And I think this is something that we need to consider and having this as something really important, to take this habit on critical thinking. We need to continue validating. Even if we are using AI, we need to consider that nothing is completely true just because the AI tool is telling you that. And we can consider that we can question what we're getting. We can analyze. I think this critical thinking, it's even more important right now, because that's going to help us to go in the correct direction.
Understanding how AI works and what it is behind the scenes, and not just kind of like the hype and what it can do for you, is very useful to figure out how to actually use it appropriately. I've seen so many times already AI is not being used well. So I've seen, like marketing people asking AI to give them hey, give me the results of 100 Alice's. What would they think about my product? And they use that as basically information that guides their selling strategy. And I'm like, there's no way I can give you with 100% accuracy. It might give you with a 75% accuracy, but definitely, not 100. So understanding how AI works is, I think, is super important. Start with that. And then it will help you to understand how to use it in your work better.
All right, just so you know, I did each of these interviews completely separately. None of the experts heard what the other experts said. So it was really interesting for me to hear how common a lot of the answers were and the type of skills each expert mentioned. So based on the answers, AI should free us up to focus more on our human strengths, which would be problem solving, strategic thinking, creativity, and communication. So it's almost like soft skills are now the new hard skills. All right, so my next question then was, what's a common misconception or mistake teams make when trying to adopt AI in testing?
I would say the biggest one is that they let AI write their test cases for them. I know that that's probably the lowest hanging fruit and the one that people will go with. But again, QA is not about quantity. It's about quality. So a handful of good test cases is going to far exceed risk insights than a bunch of just, mindless test cases that are all focused on numbers. And we know that this is a challenge in management these days. We know that numbers sometimes are the only game. So and testers learn to game this as well by generally creating an enormous amount of test cases that really don't reduce much risk. So that's an area I foresee this tying into.
The problem, so the key advice is for testers is test things. Like, instead of imagine how they won't work in some weird obscure case, or they won't cover something very unique to you, just try this stuff, test it out. And the key thing is compare it with an oracle. And guess who the oracle should be? You. you put yourself to the same test that you gave the AI and then compare yourself with it. If you just poke holes in things, that's what the lowest degenerate tester does, is they just find problems and things. They don't appreciate the complexity. They don't appreciate the value. They just are super excited to find a bug. Be a tester and be a critical thinker and actually measure these things. That's what I recommend. That's my advice.
Oh my God, there's so many misconceptions or mistakes. I think the last 3 or 4 years, there have been a lot of mistakes made and misconception. One of the misconceptions was what I was mentioning earlier, the fact that, testers were afraid, we had testers that were afraid and we were testers that were excited, So we had to bring the one that were afraid into the boat so that they can understand literally that this is here. AI is here to augment whatever you're already doing. It's actually going to help us now be at the same level playing field with developer, because before development is always fast, they're always ahead of time and testers are behind. Now, where can we infuse AI so that, we can reduce the mistake, we can find bug faster. So those are the misconceptions that happen. The mistake is the fact that testers don't understand that the job at the end of the day is not automation. Automation is just a tools. Automation is just another toolbox. AI is also another toolbox. The technology is another toolbox that you have to use in the grand vision. The goal of the tester need to remain to be obsessed with getting result for your user. Obsessed with helping the user drive result. If the user come to you and they say they want X, the role of the tester is not to obsess about all the tools they're going to use, the automation they're going to use, the CI pipeline they're going to use. These are all means to the end. But the end is to get the customer what they want. Because now that I'm an entrepreneur and I talk to a lot of clients, what I'm seeing is a lot of clients are not getting what they ask for. A lot of startups don't have like a huge tester team. They just have 1 or 2 developers grinding, even vibe coding these days to get to the finish line. So when I get to hire one tester, I want them to really focus on the client. I wanted them to focus on what the customer wants, because developers are not paying attention to that. The only person in the pipeline that's going to pay attention to that is actually tester. So I'm really urging, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, Joe. Actually, I feel like I had stuff on my chest. I'm really urging my tester friend and community member to get back to the basic. Get back to the basic. Get back to the basic of really advocating for the customer and doing what is right, which is creating product, delivering high quality product. Everything else is just a mean to the end. Everything else is just the technology that we're going to use to get there.
One, I think we ought to be aware of what our organizations need. Specifically for us right now, we have an immense need for testing and testers, but there's not always the ability to get more resources instantly and to have those resources ramped up. So we need empowerment. We need the ability to have testing efficiencies and have the people that we have empowered to do this stuff. You see some companies talking about agentic AI type stuff. And I think those are pretty intriguing because those are, I call it a QA multiplier, maybe. Don't quote me on this. I think we have to wait until the dust settles to see what really ends up happening. But the things that can make it so I can do more with less are going to be what's going to help us be successful. But we also have to understand that more doesn't just equate quantity, but it's quality. If we lose the quality and we turn the Q in one of the Qs that we think about with software quality, from quality to quantity, we kind of miss the boat.
I think there is a lot of noise in the industry. Like every other, I think hour, there is a new company popping up and they're saying we use AI and the self-healing and all these things. And so like there is so much to choose from. I think a lot of the team gets lost in that options and choice. So like again, figuring out like what are the top contender and how they actually solve your problem. So jot down your problem space, what you are solving, then do POC or evaluation with a couple of top contender and then choose the right. Like just don't go with the hype that, okay, this is available, so let's just try it because that's the most shiniest tool out there. So it has to be very, very relevant to your problem statement. For example, like I work in a health tech industry, lot of this AI tool which claims that, oh, I can just scan you and I can write test by myself and I can test it by yourself. It doesn't work like that in health tech, right? Like there is lot of subject matter expertise needed. Even if you are tracking how a manual QA is doing it, without understanding what they're doing, like going through the traversing path, you will not be able to understand because it's very tied back to a data, right? A specific kind of a claim, a specific kind of a enrollment, and we are not telling the system that we are picking this. You are just seeing that we are searching maybe for a claim, right? But like what is tied to that claim, you cannot learn it from there. It's the pre-work that we do today. So yeah, I will tell that again, like it has to be very relevant to your problem, and there is thousands of tools out there which are making us think that which one will be best suitable for us. So don't go by the noise. Find out your problem statement, like work with couple of tools that solve your problem statement, then choose the best out of it.
Okay, so I would say there are a lot of mistakes whenever we're thinking about AI, or at the beginning when we think about including some AI tools in our processes. Some people sometimes can think that magically we will have different things that we need right now, and maybe from one day to another we're going to have the results that we're expecting. And that's totally a misconception, because AI is something that definitely can give us great results, can help us and optimize everything, any repetitive task, optimize different points in our day-to-day task, for example, different type of things that we need to do in QA. But we need to always validate what we're getting. We need to understand what's the response or what's the output that we're getting. We need to consider ourselves as a person that is going to guide this tool in order to get the best result. So I would say that AI definitely needs guidance, right, from our side, according to context and according to things that we need. Then we need to get something structured, because otherwise, if you are expecting to have something that suddenly is going to be generated and then it's going to fix your problem, then that's not going to happen. You will get disappointed because you need to structure, you need to give guidance, and constantly you need to refine what you get. So I would say like AI is not a magic pill, so it's not going to fix our problems by, alone. But with our help and using AI tools, I think we can actually get some kind of superpowers. We can improve and optimize, the time on given results. But we need to consider that we are an important part for it and we can make it work.
One last question I get asked all the time is, will AI replace testers? I think this last expert advice from Jason sums up what most other AI experts have told me.
I think we actually need as many or more testers than we have today. But I think there's going to be a shortage of testers, ironically, because guess what? Most of those testers they'll opt out of the system because they won't want to do that work. They don't want, the developers don't want to be a tester. They don't want to be a reviewer of tests, and they don't want to embrace the technology. They like what they're doing today, and the world's just going to move past them. So I think ironically might have a shortage of testers, not even just like a break even, but a shortage. But those are the testers that are smart enough, experienced enough, and care about quality enough that they will look and review and appreciate the work that the AI did. Just like some developers go, it's not as smart as me. I'm going to still manually craft all my C code or something. Amazon's stopped hiring engineers. Salesforce claimed to stop hiring engineers too, and switching over to AI. And that pendulum's going to keep going the other way, where they're going to, and what Facebook, I think, just said they're getting rid of most mid-level engineers, I think, or something this year or next. So there's going to be an outflow from the testing world at the very moment we need very experienced and caring and passionate testers.
So is it going to replace you? Like I said, no. I think it replaced tasks, not testers. Your role may change, keep that in mind. You've already heard that from other experts, but the fundamentals of testing will remain. It's up to you to pivot and learn and keep up to date on what you can do to add more and more value to your organizations as AI becomes more and more adopted by them. And I know it's probably a cliche now, but AI won't replace you, but a tester with AI will. And that's why I need you to start using AI and seeing how it can or can't help you and your organizations become more productive and make you even more valuable to your organization. As I've seen over the years, AI won't replace you, but organizations will definitely try to replace you if you don't constantly show them the value you bring to your organization. Be seen as an AI testing leader, not a blocker. Look, I know it can be scary, but trust me, over almost 30 years of my career, I've been told over and over again how something was going to replace me. From early automation testing recorders, to developers doing all the testing of their code, to outsourcing of testing jobs to other countries, to aging out of the industry, yet I'm still here. And you will too. One last way you can make sure to stay up to date on all the changes in AI and testing and learn from your peers on what's working with AI and testing is to join the Test Guild community now by heading over to testguild.me/join now. And make sure to follow all the awesome experts I featured in today's session. Look, honestly, no one can predict the future, but I feel it's going to be okay as long as you embrace change and become the AI testing leader your team needs. It's up to you to shine the light on what works and what doesn't with AI to your organizations and lead them out of the cave of fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. Okay, hope you found some value in this session. Hope you join the Guild community. And once again, I'm Joe. And as always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.